Welcome back, everybody, to the Commanders Declassified podcast, your home for all things Commanders from a fan perspective and a darn educated fan perspective, if I do say so myself. My name is Eric. Mike from Southwest is here with me. Mike, what's going on?
Man, nothing much. Just ready to finish the season. There's 4 games left. 4 seemingly winnable games. So I'm ready to talk about the Saints.
Let's get this thing rolling. Ellie is traversing the jungles of the Punjab tonight. He'll be back with us next week. In the meantime, I will take on the game show hosting duties myself, and we're gonna take a quick assessment. You weren't here last week, Mike. What is your assessment of this team at the bye week?
Much better than we expected to start the season. Like that's clear. That's obvious. But now that we are in the middle of the season or the end of the season, I wouldn't say I'm anxious. I'm cautiously excited about this team and their future and the rest of the 2024 season. I think the offense may have gotten back on track 2 weeks ago versus the Titans. The defense, I feel like, has been performing above expectations probably since the Steelers game, the end of the Steelers game. I think the defense, and just overall, the defense has been playing well this season. The numbers are backing it up, even if they do give up plays at the worst opportunity. But with Lattimore coming in, I think the defense can even get better to the point where winning a game in the playoffs isn't impossible anymore. Like, I think that's their goal right now, or that's a realistic goal for a fan. If a fan is saying, hey, if we win a playoff game, that's a successful season, I can't hate on that take.
Nah. And, this team is currently sitting in the number 7 spot in the playoff race. One, I guess, a half game ahead of the Rams. No, I guess a game ahead. Game. Yeah, now that they've had the bye. It's a game ahead of the Rams and 2 games up on everybody else. So the Rams and 49ers play Thursday night. I think we should all become 49ers fan, at least for one night. Because it would be nice to go into this weekend 2 games up with 4 to play. It's a little bit more, not a sure thing by any stretch of the imagination, because we saw how this team played against Dallas. But you've got a pretty good feeling if you're 2 games up with 4 to play, with, the Saints, the Cowboys, and the Falcons still left on your schedule. You're feeling like you might have a chance at going to the playoffs, and maybe even jumping over Green Bay for that number 6 spot, which would be huge, because I think I would much rather go to Arizona or Atlanta / Tampa Bay in the first round of the playoffs than Philly or Detroit, whoever goes there. So I think we should all become Rams fans, and hopefully we can overtake the Green Bay Packers. What's your feelings on the Week 14 bye? Such a late bye. They seem like they get that bye every single year in Week 14. How do you feel about that?
My apologies. What's funny? This is the 3rd straight year I think we've had it, and it seemed like I didn't notice the effect that it has on the players until this season. And I don't know if it's because we're more competitive than we were in the previous years or what, but it's not good for a team to have such a late bye. For a team to have it 3 straight seasons, it's kind of ridiculous. But now I feel like the NFL is going to balance it out by giving us a Week 4 bye next year, and then we're going to have to play 20 straight weeks of football or whatever. But it's something that teams have to know how to deal with. It's not like they just found out a week ago that their bye is in Week 14. We knew this since April or the beginning of May, and they're a $1 billion franchise or whatever. So hopefully, not just Washington, but all teams are planning for late or early buys. I'll kick the question back to you. What's an ideal bye week? Because I can't think of anything like outside the middle of the season, like Week 8, Week 9.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was about to say. Like, whose back do we have to rub to get a Week 9 bye, man? Because that would be ideal, right? Normally, I'm not a fan at all of the Week 14 bye, especially in my non-money fantasy league where I'm actually in first place. Like, everybody was on bye or injured this week, and it sucked. But yeah, I mean, I think a midseason bye. However, this year it's almost like we got a double bye week because you remember we had the long week coming out of Dallas, going into Tennessee. So really, the last 3 weeks, this team's only played one game on one Sunday out of the last three. So hopefully that's a good thing, and they're not rusty. Hopefully they're well refreshed and they're healing up. You said before, Marshawn Lattimore is looking like he might play this week. I think this has kind of been the target for him to get back this whole time, just because we knew, he had the hamstring injury. I think the team was well aware of it, weren't trying to rush him back before the bye, which I think is smart. So hopefully he's healthy and he can go this week and give the team a boost for the rest of the season. The rest of the season starts this Sunday with the New Orleans Saints, who are having a weird season. Seems like 2 years ago now, but they started out the season on a tear. The first 2 weeks of the season, they scored like 40 points both times. They had two massive blowouts. And then the wheels just came off. And they lost, and they're now sitting at 5-8 after a long losing streak. Head coach, I already forgot his name. Dennis Allen got fired, and they've gone 3-1 since that happened. They've had a nice little run under what's the assistant coach's name? I just had it. I want to say Frank Rizzo, but I don't think that's right because that was the Jerky Boys back in the 90s. But yeah, neither here nor there. We've got, they're playing better. Darren Rizzo. Yes, thank you.
Rizzy.
The Rizzler. Just call him the Rizzler. Yeah, the Rizzler.
He was actually, that's crazy. He's the special teams coordinator there.
Yeah. That was the other thing, is because we've got Larry Izzo as our special teams coordinator. It's too many Z's, man. It's too many Z's for one football conversation. That's all I'm saying. So the Rizzler has led the Saints to a 3-1 record. They've done it in different ways. The first couple of games, they were really leaning on the Taysom Hill train. They were riding that thing until the wheels fell off. He was lost 2 weeks ago with a season-ending ACL injury, much to the chagrin of what I thought was improving fantasy team. He got me 60 points one week and then blew his ACL out. But they lost that game. They came back this week and kind of muddled through a win against the Giants. Derek Carr was injured towards the end of that game, but fortunately they were playing the Giants, who were a far worse team than anybody, the Saints could ever hope to be. So they were able to eke out a win, but that set them up for a game coming in this week with Derek Carr questionable, their primary weapon on offense since during the win streak. In Taysom Hill, he's injured. They do still have Alvin Kamara out there. Definitely still some players, because Kamara is always going to be a problem. Tight end Juwan Johnson has taken over for. I'm just rolling right into the offense, by the way. Juwan Johnson has taken over for Taysom Hill, but it's just not the same. A nice, solid offensive line anchored by rookie Talisi Fuaga, and I probably butchered that, and I apologize. MVS at wide receiver. Not a whole lot of weapons out there. Looking like Jake Haener might be the guy this week if Derek Carr can't go. I think the Spencer Rattler experiment is over, and none too soon. Their primary wide receivers, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, both injured reserve. They're really a walking wounded on offense. So they're coming in very shorthanded. So I think they're really hoping that, if Derek Carr can't go, that Washington just has a really dud of a week defensively. That really seems like their best hope, because the Washington offense has shown the ability to put up some points, and I think the defense has played much better in recent weeks. But that is your territory, of course, so I'll let you talk about that. But offensively, I think you got to lean on Alvin Kamara as best you can, and just take shots in the passing game. Maybe pick on Benjamin St-Juste as in his new role, hopefully as a number 2 corner. And you send MVS out on him, or Kevin Austin, or Cedric Wilson, or whoever they got as their number 2 receiver, and you go after St-Juste and hope to draw some PIs, because they're there against St-Juste. But that's really your best way to attack. You got to run the football and take your shots in the passing game. Defensively, what do you think the Saints are bringing to the table there?
Well, I know that they're ranked last. They're ranked 30th in total defense. But sometimes those defensive numbers, they can be a bit off. At least the total numbers can be a bit off. So I'm looking at some advanced metrics, and it looks like they're middle of the pack when it comes to pass rush defense. But one thing that they aren't as good as, and I think Washington can definitely take advantage of it, is their run defense. They're just not good at stopping the run on the metrics. On a total defense, they're just not good at stopping the run. They do have some nice pieces on their defense, but they're ranked 30th. So, like, it's not like they've been that nice. But they have held teams to less than 20 points the 3 times in the last 4 games, with the exception being the loss versus the Rams. So it's not like the defense has been horrible, but I just think it's because they haven't played the offense that's good. They played the Falcons, they played the Giants, they played the Browns, they played the Rams. The Rams put 20 up on them. I see why Washington wouldn't be able to put 20 up on them. Our friend, old pal, our old buddy, Chase Young is coming back. And he had a good game yesterday. I've seen multiple tweets. I mean, not yesterday, Sunday. I've seen multiple tweets about him having 10 pressures on the Giants on Sunday. But it's no sacks. Pause. It's no sacks. He's not getting to the quarterback quick enough. And that seems like that's been the story of his career. And against Washington, I really feel like they can neutralize him. They did it to Myles Garrett. They kind of did it with Parsons, but he kind of was Parsons. Was able to still be disruptive. But I just don't think Young would have the type of impact on this game that he had versus the Giants the previous week. And outside of that, they got Kool-Aid McKendry at cornerback. Yes, that's his real name for those that had their head buried in the sand the last 3 years. Rookie from Alabama. And old vet. I can't believe he's an old vet now, but the Honey Badger. He's still back there roaming in the secondary. And as long as he's playing, like, you're going to want to pay attention to him even at an old age. He's their version of Bobby Wagner. So, yeah, they're ranked last, but they have a couple of pieces. But I feel like if they can't stop the run, they're definitely not stopping it versus Washington, which bodes wonderfully for me because I have Brian Robinson, and the fantasy playoffs are starting in our league this weekend, and I need him to feast on that suspect run defense.
I was not invited to the fantasy playoffs, but that's okay.
Second rank, baby.
Not my year.
Rank.
Not
Top
my year.
2.
Yeah. Saints are +2, it looks like, in turnover margin. 16 takeaways, 14 turnovers this year, so they're doing okay in that respect. So you can't hate on them too much. Definitely not an opponent that you can underestimate because they do have some wins, and they have shown the ability to score some points this year, even though everybody that was scoring those points looks like they're injured now. So we don't know what the situation is quite yet going into the weekend. But yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a tough road to hoe for them. However, we have been supremely confident moving into into games. A couple of weeks ago, we were very confident about the Dallas game, and we saw what happened there against the backup quarterback and basically the JV Cowboys. So this is not something where you can just take a win for granted by any stretch of the imagination. You have any key players for this week?
Forget it. Why not? Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore, if he plays, which it looks like he is, Dan Quinn said in his press conference yesterday that he passed all the tests. He's marking all the, what's the word he used? I can't remember the word he used, but, marks. He's hitting all his marks. And that's good. Like, he's been chilling for the last couple of weeks. I know a lot of people hate that he hadn't played, but I mean, you don't want to throw him out there. I know you just got him and we're in the middle of a playoff race or whatever, but the defense hasn't even been the reason that we've been losing games, in my opinion. It's been the offense that hasn't played their part. So, yeah, him going back to New Orleans is the first game. You know, emotions going to be high. But he's a dog, Young, and I really can't wait to see the Bama with this defense. And he's learned it, hopefully, in the last month since the trade. And last thing about the trade itself, like, it could be worse. we could be the Ravens and going with the situation that they have with Deontay Johnson, who they had to suspend after they traded for him. So it could be worse. But I'm expecting a good game from him on Sunday.
Could be like the Cowboys, where we traded a day 2 pick for a dude who doesn't even play, and didn't play on his old team. Could be a lot worse. Yeah, my key player this week is going to be Chase Young, because a motivated Chase Young is still a bum, and I'm not worried about him at all. Sorry, Chase, but it ain't. Yeah, sorry. You had your chance. You tried. You're going to be an NFL journeyman, and you could only wish to be anything more than that at this point. And I had my Chase Young rant last week, so I'm going to spare you guys, but I was right. That's all I'm saying. Well, no, I was wrong, just not in the way you guys thought I would be. But you got a score prediction for me this week?
Whew. I looked at the spread. Washington favored by 7. I feel like that's about right. And there's been some high spreads the last couple of weeks that teams just are not covering. Like the Chiefs were the 13.5-point favorite last week versus who they played. The week before last they were a 13-point favorite versus the Broncos or Raiders or something, and they don't cover. But I expect Washington to cover. They're at home. The quarterback situation for New Orleans is iffy at best, to be honest with you. I'm going to say 29-17 Washington.
Okay. It's a road game, though, this week. So does that make
Oh, shoot, it is.
Yes, yeah, it's in
the Superdome. And you just reminded me. I was supposed to go on that trip, and now I'm kind of sad about it. So
sorry about that.
Thanks for that. But no, still, even with us on the road, matter of fact, that kind of changes things. A road 7-point favorite is a big number. So I'll say 29-21.
Okay. Yeah, this is a game. I feel confident going into this game, but I also felt confident going into Dallas. So I'm going to hedge a little bit this time. This game is either going to be like 45-14 Commanders, or the Saints are going to win. They're going to upset them. There's no in between. It's going to be like 19-17 Saints or 45-14 Commanders. I don't see any in between. I think it's going to be a blowout if the Commanders win, because it means they're ready to play. If the Commanders don't show up ready to play, it's going to be a long day in New Orleans. So that's my hedge. It's going to go one way or the other: a blowout or an upset loss. Let's hope for the blowout, because I've seen those upset losses already, or that upset loss already once this season. I'm sick of watching those. So go Commanders.
Man,
so I'm
back-to-back blowouts. That's going to be tough.
I'm leaning blowout for the Commanders, just because the Saints are so injured. But you never can tell, and it is a road game in a dome stadium. Those are always tough. We don't know how this team is quite going to react coming out of a bye, because it's such a new group. With Dan, and I meant to look up Dan Quinn's record coming out of the bye, but something tells me it's like 2-2 or something. I don't think it's going to be anything spectacular, because he's he's a 500 coach prior coming into this season anyway. So I assume his bye week record isn't going to be too much different. I should have looked that up, but I didn't do my homework. It's just like middle school all over again. Either way, you got any final thoughts going into this game?
Just win. Like it's pretty much that simple. I just want him to win. No injuries, of course. Another player though we should focus on, Chris Rodriguez, man. Like he McNichols and Robinson should really have a good game on Sunday. And I don't think I'm jinxing it. I don't think I'm going to look stupid on Monday morning. Like, even if Washington does lose, it won't be because the running backs had a bad day. I can promise you that. Unless something catastrophic happens, which all three of them might get food poisoning before the game or something. And you got Jayden Daniels out there doing this best Josh Allen impersonation. But outside of that, yeah. Robinson eating, McNichols eating, Rodriguez hopefully feasting on Sunday in New Orleans. Not at Northwestfield. Sorry, in New Orleans.
Stay away from the gumbo, the pregame gumbo with the shrimp in it because you don't know what's going on down there. That Lake Pontchartrain water might not be good. Yeah, Rodriguez last week, he had 94 yards rushing and didn't even have a carry until like almost the end of the third quarter. So more of that, please. Yeah, I think if this team leans on the running game, like you said, that's been the recipe for success all year. If they're running the ball, if they're running the ball effectively, it's over. If they're running the ball consistently, they've got a great shot at winning. And then, Jayden can pick his spots. I think that's the formula for winning. They've got that formula of like 55 combined rushes and completed passes. You got to try to stick to that. If you do that, it's just going to be a long day for the Saints. Let's hope they go ahead and do that. And let's hope you guys tune in every week and subscribe and like this podcast. Hit us up on all of your favorite podcatchers, Spotify, Apple, I don't know, there are other ones, Amazon, all the good ones. Hit us up. Leave us a review if it's 5 stars. If it's not 5 stars, you just keep your review to yourself. Those do help us get boosted on the podcatchers. You can also catch us on YouTube if you can stand to look at us. We're not pretty men. That's all I'm saying. But we're here on YouTube as well. You can give us a like and subscribe there. We can use all the help we could get. Hit us up on commanders247.com as well. There's always content out there. And until next week, we will see you guys later. Ellie will be back. And until then, peace out, homies.